This is just a video to show you the Darling. We've travelled 600 k's up here to throw some thirsty lures, and this is the longest hole we've found, and the amount of fish that have died and we're found on the bank. We're at a guy called Rob's property. How you going, Rob?
Go, mate. How you going?
All right. What's the name of your station?
Tulano Station. So it's one of the oldest stations in the Western Division. Dates back about 170 years. I guess what we want to say to the people, to the fishermen, you've got 1,500 kilometres of river like this. This is the worst environmental disaster in our country's history, and it's totally man-made. This has got nothing to do with drought. This is government policy of destroying the Menindee Lakes and in return destroying the Darling River. So for the fishermen out there, you've got to understand the Menindee Lakes were effectively the last great breeding ground of the Murray cod. Now, when they came out of there over the last 30 million years, they were able to come down the river and feed and survive and expand their numbers. It's collapsing now. So to the fishermen of Australia, you could well lose the golden perch. 80% came out of the Menindee Lakes of the whole Murray-Darling system. So people have got to understand that it's the whole ecosystem of the Murray-Darling that's collapsing. It's not just a little part of a river, it's your whole ecosystem. And so for the fishermen, please, ladies and gentlemen, get involved. If you can get onto our Facebook page, which is Tulano Station Facebook, we get about 100,000 Australians who are actually looking in each week to see what's happening. We try and keep people abreast of the corruption that's killing your river. We're not getting any help from 7, 9 and 10. It's only Channel 2 who are doing everything to keep it in the public knowledge. But please, ladies and gentlemen, your worst environmental disaster is happening as we speak. It's up to you to stand up and start taking notice. Please, thank you for your time.
And see, I'm from Melbourne, and us people down Melbourne wouldn't even know what's happening up here, Rob.
It's kept in the dark. The press has been shut down to us. I was speaking to top executives within Channel 7 in Adelaide, and I said, worst environmental disaster. They turned around and said, nothing to see there, Rob. The journalists in Australia have been silenced. If they ask questions, they lose their job. It's that simple. So it's only Channel 2 who are trying their guts out. There's another Four Corners report coming up in a few weeks. And Channel 2 is getting raided by the police. Now that just shows you how the corruption is so bad in Australia that if you ask questions, if you tell people in Australia what's going on, they're getting crucified by asking questions. So they're keeping quiet. So it's only Channel 2 who are there to put the voice out here of this totally man-made disaster, and yet Australians aren't aware of it. So please, ladies and gentlemen, it's only through social media that we're getting traction. I held a fish about 3 months ago. 10 million people on the planet saw me and a mate, Dick Arnold, with a dead cod. That resonated throughout the world, but our government is silent in all regards and trying to hide it. Our Prime Minister hasn't been here. None of the National Party, none of the government has been here. They've just let this die, and they're hoping that you Australians don't see what's actually happening.
We've found a fair few fish, like fish of a lifetime that'll be over a metre, and like we've travelled 600 k's on this trip, but we spend thousands and thousands of dollars every year chasing cod. And you can see this here, this is the deepest hole that we've found, so we've been camping here for the last 2 nights. And how long do you think this will last, this water?
Maybe 3 or 4 weeks. So the problem is you've got all the cod who are clambering to stay alive, and they're just collapsing. And there's what's intriguing with cod is they're not going to recover. The way their genetics works, they really do need this country to stay alive. And so the whole Murray-Darling is going to lose golden perch, and cod, and the only thing that's going to be left is carp. I mean, this is the worst disaster in our country's history, and the press are deadly silent about it, and it's only Channel 2. And see, please, for the people of Australia, this is your country. It's dying, it's being killed. It's not because of drought. The government will tell you it's because of drought. This has nothing to do with drought. The Menindee Lakes, 4 times bigger than Sydney Harbour, they were drained twice in 4 years. That wasn't a mistake. That was government policy, and that's corruption at the worst level. And that's why we're forcing, and we really ask you to talk to your politicians. We need a federal royal commission. It's only through a royal commission that we're going to get integrity back into the river system. But the National Party and the Liberal Party do not want to see a royal commission, because there's going to be a number of politicians who will go to jail. It's quite simply put, jail is what is needed for the people who did this, because this is not only for our generation, but it's future generations who are going to suffer by not having a natural environment. This is a disaster please, ladies and gentlemen, in our country's history, we've gone to fight wars against bad people, theoretically, on other parts of the world, and yet our own government is destroying our kids' future. This is bullshit.
Just because they're greedy.
So please, ladies and gentlemen, do speak amongst each other. Do look at Facebook pages. Do look at what's happening here.
Yeah, we need this shared.
Please, ladies and gentlemen, share it as far and wide as you can. This is your future, and it's dying. Now, if we can't feed you out of the Murray-Darling Basin system, what's your future? Your rivers are dead. Your farmers being run off the land. Suicide rates in Australian farmers have exploded in the last 6 months because people are giving up hope. And you can see why they do give up hope, because they've got a government working against them. They've got drought to contend with. But when you've got this river system being destroyed, the Murray-Darling feeds 40 million people. Now, we're not going to be feeding anybody. So where do we get the food from? We become slaves to foreign nations, and that's what's happening. And that is really, it appears to be a plan to destroy the rivers. And the people of Australia are very urbanised. They don't know what's going on. The press is keeping it silent. And really, ladies and gentlemen, like that raid in ABC the other week, that's bullshit. That just shows you how corrupt the system is, that the freedom of the press, there is no freedom of the press because there is no press except ABC. So please support your ABC and please get involved. Come out here. The boys have come out here. They've travelled 600 k's to see the reality of the situation. The government doesn't want you to see this. Without a river, fishermen won't come. Fishing industry in Australia is a $3 billion industry. Now, the cotton industry runs a $1.5 billion industry. The cotton industry's increased 4,000% since 1975. They've taken the water. They've taken all the water. And they're saying, we've got nothing to do with it. Well, this river was 40% of the water supply of the Murray-Darling Basin. It's dead. It's gone. So the ramifications are farmers on the Murrumbidgee are unable to get any water entitlements, so they can't feed you, much less themselves, and they're all giving up. And so people are selling out, and this is a disaster. We've got to stop it. And for the fishermen of Australia, there's not going to be any fish left. There's not going to be any future.
Nah, they haven't even had the strength to come after the lures. You can just see them cruising around. They're not healthy looking. They're all pale, the fish, and we've found so many dead fish. There's one just down there on the bank. We've found a heap, but you can see the ground like this. We haven't seen any grass. How big would this property be?
It's 500,000 acres.
And you wouldn't even be able to run sheep. We haven't seen any sheep.
We lost 25,000 acres of land along this river country, which is normally our best country.
No boundary.
They survive, no boundary, no river. And you have to remember, this is the heartland of Australia. Yes, we've got a drought to contend with, but the river was always there, and it gives life to the sheep and the animals. And we could run sheep successfully, believe it or not, with very little here if we had a river, but we have no river.
Haven't even seen much bird life.
Menindee Lakes, 142 species of bird come from all around the world, including Siberia, comes to Menindee Lakes to feed. Now, those lakes are empty. So you've got some pelicans who are cleaning up. You're probably talking, the populace of Australia saw about 3 million fish die. Hundreds of millions of fish died. Hundreds of millions of fish. What's happened is the pelicans have cleaned up the rest, or as you said, they're dead on the banks. So
we've found 6 dead so far.
We're talking hundreds of millions. This is the worst, probably worst environmental disaster on the planet. We sent a letter off to the United Nations recently to say send in peacekeepers, because our government has betrayed the population of Australia and they don't know what's happening. And so maybe we need the UN to come in, bring in their army against our own, because clearly this is not right. This is fundamentally a disaster for generations. Barkinji Nation in Wilcannia, this was the Barker until white man got here. Barkinji's life expectancy in Wilcannia is 37 for males, 42 for females. The water, they get their name, the Barkinji, from the Barker. Water is everything to them. People give Aboriginals a hard time sometimes, saying, oh, they do this or they do that. Their river is their life. Without a river, they do drink, they do get into trouble, they do die. Now, this is their country and our country, and together we need to fix it up. And it's only through putting corrupt politicians and corrupt public servants in jail. And the only way we'll do that is to expose it. The only way to expose it is through a Royal Commission. The government at the moment is talking about investigations. They're looking for problems down in the Southern Basin. You know, this is the problem. Up there's the problem. The cotton industry controls this country. They control a lot of politicians, and they've got to be stopped, because without a river system, we've got nothing in Australia. 14% of the landmass of Australia is controlled by the Murray-Darling, and it's collapsing at 1 million miles an hour.
And as a Melbourne boy, you wouldn't even know that any of this is happening unless it was for Facebook.
It is only
you don't see anything on TV.
Channel 9, 7 and 10 have done nothing. Channel 10 did one program with the project, which was good. They tried to get it out there. But just note, what's 7 and 9 done? Nothing. Not a bloody thing. And this just shows you, ladies and gentlemen, how the press is totally controlled in Australia. And it really is through social media that we really do need everybody to spread these facts. Unless you spread the facts through social media, it's not going to get out there. Your country is being murdered by corruption, and you don't see it because they don't want you to see it. The bad guys control the press. The press are saying nothing to see here. And as I said, I've spoken to executives. They said, been up the Darling before, nothing to see there. There isn't. This is a disaster. This is the worst man-made disaster in our country's history, and it's unfolding as we speak. And there is no solution unless Australians rise up and start to take this seriously. So we ask everybody to spread this. As I said, it is that important. It is your country, and it's dying.
Yeah, I reckon we travelled probably 16 k's, or 20 odd k's up the upstream. Well, yeah, sorry about that. Up where the river used to be, and all the other what's left of the water, it's all green and algae ridden and just yuck. There's nothing in there, and we've found 2 holes in 20 k's.
You get blue-green algae. There's residues coming off crops in the northern basin, so you get blue-green algae because superphosphates, etc., get into the water. When that blooms, every so often there's a cold snap, it deoxygenates the water, so it kills another 1 million fish. So this happens. So the fish have got nowhere to run. Now, traditionally, they'd have the Menindee Lakes. So in a drought period like this, they'd know times are tough, and they'd get into Menindee Lakes, and there'd be 7 to 10 years supply of water, which would guarantee them life until the next rains come.
Yeah.
The problem is the water's being captured up in the northern basin on man-made dams, and the government has allowed it. And the government's not only allowing it, but they're pushing forward to increase that by what's called floodplain harvesting, which means destroy everything out here, laser level it, and put a big bank up to stop the water getting into the Darling River. And that's called floodplain harvesting. That isn't floodplain harvesting, that's raping the rivers. And if we continue to do this, we've got no future. Australians, seriously, in Melbourne, you've got to understand your food doesn't come from Coles and Woolies, it comes from out here. And we cannot supply anything if we're being killed off. And we are. This is, in my worst nightmares, I would have never imagined that our country would come to this point, but it has. And it's really through the cities that you've got to wake up. Even the Collingwood supporters in Melbourne, you know, like weekend detention's off, but I'm a Carlton supporter. Please, ladies and gentlemen, this is a disaster. It is happening in your backyard, and you're not seeing it because it's not getting through to the press. These boys have come 600 kilometres. Please, everybody's welcome here at Tolano. You've got to see it for yourself, because if you see one of the great rivers of the world dry, you've got to ask why, and it's not because of drought.
It's very, very sad.
But thank you for your time, but please, ladies and gentlemen, spread it. If you're a fisherman, if you want to fish into the future, or if you want your kids to be able to go fishing, then please fight for us, fight for the Murray-Darling Basin. It's that serious.
Thanks very much, Rob. I appreciate you educating us boys, spending the morning with us and telling us some stuff, and you know, we can share it and explain to other people that we know what's going on. And yeah, because obviously, I didn't know any of this was going on unless it was via Facebook. But yeah, I'm going to get the message across, and hopefully a lot of people will share it.
Really do appreciate your time, and thank you very, very much. And do share it, please, ladies and gentlemen. This has to be, it has to get to the public, and the only way is through social media. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.